Alright, I think I'm on now. This is Anon. This is not to be financial advice. It's for entertainment purposes only. And we are going to be covering Aterian's earnings call and balance sheet kind of breakdown. Let's see if we get it up now. Let me go ahead and push this out. What's up, Matt? What's up, Keith? What's up, Wayne? Interesting. Okay, it took a second. It was lagging for a second. Okay, here we go. Now everybody's coming on. All right, so let's link this in the Discord so we can let everyone come in and hang out and hear what's going on. Obviously, we have a lot to talk about, so let's go into that. But let's get some people in here first, because I know everyone's kind of got a lot of questions. What's going on, guys? Yeah, some people need hugs, and that's fine. I mean, we talked about this. We talked about this. I think even was it? I didn't stream yesterday. But I guess I was talking about it on Friday, right? I said there was a distinct possibility that we would go and we were going to get hammered on earnings, and then we're going to dip into this loading zone, and then we could possibly bounce off one of these moving averages, which would be right about the 350-ish mark. And so, yeah, I mean, everyone in here obviously, was hoping for an earnings beat. That's not what happened, but we'll go into that. So let's go ahead and get people in here, get people listening, and we can kind of go from there. So let's go ahead and add this to Twitter as well, so we can let as many people in here and ask questions and stuff like that. So, all right. Covering the earnings. Hashtag ATER. Okay, so I put it out on Twitter too. How's it going, guys? Yeah. Don't worry, we'll cover everything. We just want to get as many people in here as we can, because obviously, people want to know what's going on. We need to break down the balance sheet. We need to kind of go over a bunch of things. But let's start out with getting as many people as we can in here, so that way you don't have to repeat things multiple times. Okay. Somebody said that the YouTube was cutting in and out. Let me just double check and make sure that's okay. Is everyone else okay? All right, let's see. Make sure everybody's good. Yeah, I mean, so far no one can refute the math. It's, it is what it is as far as the price goes. And this was definitely a possibility, and I brought that up with, everybody. If you've been listening to these, these DDs, then my wife's here. What's up, hon? You want to say hi to the YouTube? Oh. My wife made a joke. Sorry. So yeah, let me go ahead and let's just get into some of the stuff inside the filings. Let me pull that up real quick. Make sure. Yeah, I guess. Oh, that's what he was talking about. There was apparently a video that was only 10 seconds long that went out right before I went live. So I'm going to turn that off right now. And we'll go ahead and all right, should be good there. All right, pulling over a bunch of stuff, and let's take a look real quick. And I know there's gonna be a million questions, so let's kind of get through as many as we can. And hopefully, let's see, the market's burning. Yes, the market was burning. Don't let the assholes get to you. Thanks, Keith. No, it's fine. I mean, like, I've got thick skin. I've been in this game a long time. People had an issue, I guess, with me having a Patreon, which was supposed to be to basically make sure I could stream full time and kind of like walk people through stuff during the day. Obviously, I'm not able to do that, but I can do what I can at night right now. I still have a full-time job, but I'm not able to write DD all day long and research, obviously. So that was kind of the goal of the Patreon, was if you wanted me to be there for people at their disposal during the day, then I was going to have that. But, it is what it is. We'll see if that ever comes about. But I'm willing to do this the rest of the time. Andrew says, I'm too dumb to sell. I'm not even sure how I came into this money, but these diamond hands are going to retire with ATER long. Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, we're still on Reg Show, and this is entirely dependent on retail at this point, because retail owns the majority of the stock. And I think they own more shares than we realize. The reason I say that is because the last couple weeks, if anyone's noticed, if I pull up the Fintel data, and this is something that I was kind of eyeing up earlier, and let me log in real quick so I can show you guys this. But what essentially I saw that Aterian's short interest had kind of subsided, but the stock price was still going down. And I think I even called it out in here a couple times that what I saw was, that didn't quite make sense. And what that usually means is there were some sort of institutions that were probably selling. What you'll find out when you've been, in the game for a while is these guys have like spies all throughout Wall Street. And so these guys all talk to each other and they get like wink, wink, nod, nod, like, hey, bud, I know things are going well over there, right? So they go, oh, well, I can't talk about that kind of stuff. And what you'll end up finding is you'll find that these guys will kind of get their bosses some information when they'll, we need to bleed off some shares of Aterian or whatever beforehand. And so my guess is institutions were probably guessing that this was going to go down, and so they were selling off in this period of time. Because if you look at this here, the aggregate short volume ratio had been like in the 60s the weeks prior. And then it was only in the 30s and 40s. So what you'll find usually is that's because somebody was bleeding off longs. So what we'll find out now on the next 13F is if that happened, then retail really is going to own the majority of the stock. And so it's really up to retail. If you're done, this is where we just were. Like literally, this is the daily. This is where we just were. We hit an all-time low, a 52-week low. The all-time low is 142. When that was back when the stock was a much different, that was like 2 or 3 years ago. The float's different. All these things are different now. But this was the most recent, number. Now, what I could see happening is this. We just had this nice run up right here, right? The volume came in, and as soon as we got any volume on the stock, it flew. Right? Now, there are more people that own Aterian than back in here. Back here, people were afraid to buy at these $2 levels. Now, I think most people that have bought in up here would love to average down in this range if it gets back down there. I don't know if it can or not. We'll see. But what we're going to find out real quick is there's going to be some retail that sell off, and they're going to freak out because what's going to happen tomorrow is they're going to really attack the stock, and it's going to get pushed down into this, range right here. Now, in the after hours, I can show you this right here. So here's the beginning of the after hours, right? So we finished here right around 4, and then they waited right until the earnings came out, and as soon as the earnings dropped, they slammed the stock down. And if you actually look, there's not much volume. This isn't like there was more sell volume on this candle right here than this candle right here, but it's in the after hours, and that makes it look so much more scary. And so what ended up happening is we hit a low of 292. So they dropped basically with it looks like perhaps maybe like 200,000 shares. They dropped like $80 million off the market cap. Like, that's pretty silly. Now, what you're going to find is they're going to try to shake the rest of the tree tomorrow, and it's fine. It is what it is. And if you're someone that is nervous and you want to sell, you're more than welcome to sell. Nobody here is giving you financial advice. I'm just telling you how the market works as far as this goes. So we are closer, in my opinion, right now to the recent low than we are to where the stock could be. And what's going to end up happening is this. As the stock price gets lower, retail actually gains more power because, once again, if the stock starts dipping down into the twos or like the threes, retail can afford more shares. And if they're really diamond handing them or holding them long because they believe in the long term of Aterian, what's going to end up happening is we're already on reg show. So as these shares get even cheaper, if these end up in the hands of people that are looking to hold these long, it's still creating a problem because, like, as long as retail, if you sell, you sell, and that's what it is. But if you decide that you're going long on Aterian, you would probably want to buy down at these levels. Like, I just worked out the book value. I think we're around like 3 based off the balance sheet. The new book value was around like 317 or something like that. So like book value has dropped slightly based off these last numbers. But if you're still down here and buying around book value, you're buying basically off of the balance sheet. And what it would if they were to liquidate the stock based off the balance sheet, that's what the price would be. So, I mean, our previous one was 423. Now it's just like $1 lower. So like you're still down in this range. And here's the thing: down in this range where this is like the loading zone, this is where it's dangerous for shorts to keep going short because if they get caught the wrong way, right now we're already on reg show, which means that they have failed to deliver a certain amount of their stock over the course of time. So what ends up happening now is these guys are going to be trying to find any sort of way to get retail to come out so they can actually unload and start buying back these shares. So what they're trying to do right now, if you think about it, is they're trying to push the stock down, and while the stock's getting pushed down, they're going to try to start covering some of their shares. Now, that's if retail is willing to sell. So it is, we're going to find out real quickly, because they're going to manipulate the price. The price is going to go down no matter what. That's their goal. They need to shake the trade. They need retail to sell. They've needed retail to sell this entire time. So let me start looking at some questions real quick. So what's the game plan here? For me, I'm long Aterian, and I've been long Aterian. I held Aterian back when it was doing this, and I've held Aterian all the way through here. And honestly, I'm good with it. The one thing I really liked about the balance sheet was they actually held on to their cash, which I thought was super important because that was one of the things that made me the most worried about Aterian was based off their cash burn. It looked like, before they raised the money with a private placement, it looked like they, only had like a year left. They've greatly reduced how much they're burning through. And they actually had more cash now than they did at the last, the 10K, I think. So that's a good sign that they're actually slowing down right now on some of their spending. Like, yeah, their numbers went down, which is obviously disappointing. Like they missed on a couple like metrics that I didn't like seeing as a business. But I also know that right now with the economy being kind of the way it is, and the market being the way it is, it wasn't the absolute worst thing. Let's see. Anon. Some douche is posting FUD about your Patreon in one squeeze, saying I'm organizing for ATER. Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, Billy. That guy can do whatever he wants. I'm not doing anything wrong. I set up a Patreon because people wanted to hear me stream and hear information. I am not organizing Aterian. I have never said that this is financial advice. I've never said that, I'm not planning on selling my shares down here. I I didn't sell when we hit 7, and I'm not selling when we're down here. So, he can say whatever he wants. Organizing to me would be me sitting there going, I'm going to go ahead and tell everyone to buy this, and then I'm going to sell up here while everyone else is screwed. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, I'm long Aterian. I've been long Aterian for a long time. All I'm going to do is going to average down, and I'm going to keep buying, and these guys are still on reg show, and they're still failing to deliver. So that guy can say whatever he wants. I will defend myself later. Honestly, I'll go in there, but I'm not paying attention to Reddit right now. I'm just going to talk to you guys because obviously it's important, to kind of cover the actual fundamentals. Like, somebody spreading FUD about me, I don't care. I have thick skin. I've been in the Marines. I went through Spurt. I went through all sorts of, GameStop. I've been called names. It is what it is. I can't change that. Obviously, the price, because of what's happening, is everyone's going to jump all over me. They're going to be like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, no one's been able to disprove any of the stuff I put out on the DD today. No one can explain the high volume, but on a low float. Nobody can explain why we're failing to deliver 10% of the shares. Like, these are all things that should be asked, but they're not being. And, everyone follows the price. That's what they're concerned about. That's fine. I'm worried about the actual reasons why the stock did this out of nowhere on no news. Why? It didn't do anything. Like, the stock was just jumped out of nowhere. And you know what else does that? GameStop, AMC. They just have random runs up. You know why? There's these shorts, they know what they're doing. And what they do is they kick the can down the road. They can hide. And especially on a small cap like Aterian, Aterian is easily manipulated. And so they basically were like, okay, we'll let this run up a little bit, and then we're going to tell everyone it's over. And then everyone's gonna get out, and then we should be able to bury the company. That's what they're trying to do right now, in my opinion. If I was a short, that's what I would do. That's why you had bots out there telling us all to sell at 7, and then as soon as we hit 7, the stock tanked. And then what are they doing now? We had a bad earnings. Ooh, it's over. Spread FUD everywhere. And one of the things they'll go for first is the best thing you can do if you're going to attack somebody is discredit their leaders. That's like the first thing you do. Like psychological warfare 101. Like, you take out the leaders and you say, see, they don't know what the fuck they're talking. Sorry, the hell they're talking about. Like, it's a way of actually going through and trying to discredit people. Nobody's said anything, though. No one's been able to be like, yeah, the volume came from this, and there's a reason. There's this reason why we're failing to deliver. No, it's because they sold more shares likely than actually existed. So, what's up, Hustle? All right, let me go through. What's up, Isaac? What's up, Chris? What's up, Jason? Chris? Yeah, I mean, like, Market Ninja's got 2,500s holding strong. What's up, Just Investor? Rough day across the market, holding strong. Yeah, I mean, we'll go into some of this stuff. So let's pull up, for example. So we did the short interest, right? I showed you guys this. So they're trying to make it where this is absolutely gone, But you notice today they did actually use more short exempt than they had been. Why? Because they wanted to really push down the price. They wanted to make sure that people are out. Like, if you actually look, like this was only 13,000. We used 140 today. That's the highest it's been since basically the 27th. All right. So let's pull up the balance sheet real quick. Kind of get into the meat and potatoes of all this. Let me find it. I had it up somewhere. Let me find. Is it this one? No. All right. Open document. Here we go. So, if you go down, here we go. So let's look at the balance sheet together. All right. So this is comparing last year, December. So this is I guess the last information that we had. So if you notice, actually, our cash has actually gone up, which is what I was talking about. This is a good thing. I was actually super worried because I was worried about how much cash they were burning in the past. Now I'm able to at least see that they're holding on to more cash than I anticipated, which is actually a really good thing. And that means they also held true to their word that essentially they were going to try to weather the storm. They know that the shipping containers were a huge hit for them. So what they did was they were going to go ahead and they were going to weather the storm, which is also why they actually added more in their inventory. So that way they don't have to be as dependent on the shipping. So they've actually increased their inventory inside the States. And at this point right now, if you look right here, cash has gone up, which is, that's I like that. And I want to see that. I want to see them reduce their costs if possible. Because if they're going to weather the storm, which is kind of their goal, they're doing what they said, which is they were going to basically make sure they have cash on hand and they're not going to burn through it. Yeah. So, and at this point right now, it's not like they're padding it that much with goodwill at this point right there. Like you see, it's about the same. It's actually slightly less. Some of the other intangibles, these haven't changed, so that's good. So, yeah, there's a little bit of fluff because some of the goodwill, I'm guessing, is based off of like some of their proprietary stuff. So, but once again, you still actually have, if you look down here, a positive shareholder equity, which is good. Because many other like balance sheets you'll look at, I don't want to pick on any stock in particular. I know some people are in. I won't pull up any of the meme stocks. I just want to show you guys. No, I'm not gonna pick on any stock that's a meme stock right now. But basically, what you'll find is many of the ones that are also in the short squeeze ones are negative shareholder equity. Aterian is at least still positive. So now you come down here and let's take a look. So they've actually only increased their current liabilities slightly, which is good. I didn't want to see this number grow too much, and I was going to say, even though we've slightly less in the total assets, this is the part that I'm really happy about, because this was the part I was very, very worried about, because usually what that means, if you're starting to run out of cash very quickly, you are then looking at dilution, which at this level would be like not a good thing. So the fact that they increase their cash, it makes me happy. So that means no immediate dilution is anytime near. They said that they had no plans on it. And honestly, if they were going to do an ATM, they would have done it probably at 7. And they didn't do it. So that just goes to show you they're not looking to dilute the stock anymore right now. They just want to batten down the hatches and go with it. So right here you see the authorized and outstanding shares. That's our shares outstanding. So let me go through. But yeah, so this is the number right here. Total liabilities and shareholder equity. Boom. So let me go through. And, so the things that we wanted to see, like, obviously we missed on net revenue, but we did see the cost of goods actually go down, which is actually a good thing. That means they're not paying as much to make and, like, basically sell the goods. So their operating expenses actually went down by, like, $3 million, which also is a good thing. They're not paying as much in sales and distribution. The R&D has actually gone down. General admin stuff has gone down. So, at this point right now, what I want to see eventually is, I want to go down and see, let's see, if you go compare it from the last 3 months. Yeah, so they had a net loss of $82 million this year, or this last report. They just basically have that, and I think that had to do with some of the shares, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they were like, yeah, that's where this stuff had started adding up. So, but overall, the net loss is less than it was. So let's see. Yeah, I didn't like seeing the adjusted EBITDA go down, but I mean, it's a rough economy right now. So I'm starting to see, like most people that got into this play were not going to go ahead and hope that this stock was the next Amazon in the making. Like this is a stock that honestly is a growth stock, and if we're looking long term, this is not their best quarter. But if you actually listen to the earnings call, the CFO now, I guess they had a different title for the old CFO, but the new CFO, he is actually very, very experienced. And I actually enjoyed hearing his perspective on things because he seemed to have a very level head as far as like how things went. He came from Amazon, I think. Actually, I think there was a couple of people that were coming from Amazon, so a lot of them have like extensive knowledge in in this particular field, in e-commerce, and it sounded like he was basically saying that like they're expecting some of these like things to catch up in the second and third. Yeah, I think second and third quarter is what he said, if not third and fourth. But he was basically saying that some of these shipping costs, because these shipping costs actually are very they lag literally months behind. So like as things started actually improving recently, we wouldn't see that until like third or fourth quarter possibly. So he was basically saying though, if you look long term, this stuff should be starting to come down, which is a good thing. So let's go through, make sure. Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll write up a DD on all this stuff. I just wanted to show you guys the first and most important thing, which is they still have enough cash that they'll be fine. Like this is not one of those things where they have $9 million of cash left and they burn $20 million a quarter. Like that's not how Aterian is right now. Aterian still has $44 million in cash, and they and they lowered their expenses. So it seems like they're just trying to batter the storm, or weather the storm, as they say, batten down the hatches, weather the storm, and that's what they said in the last earnings. They said the exact same thing and they came through because they didn't burn through that cash. And that's the thing that was most scary to me, because that would have meant more dilution, and they're not doing that. So that's a good thing. Obviously, we don't like seeing misses, but, with a stock like this, it is what it is as far as, like, you can't change it. I mean, the entire, like, Amazon missed, which meant that, we were up against the odds for our earnings beat as well. Let's go through some of these questions. Going to get the margins calls tomorrow. I'm going to tell I'm liquidated. Yeah, I mean, first off, I don't recommend anyone ever going on margin. If you, especially, at any point, they're going to try to like shake the tree. And so, this was the perfect excuse for them. This was earnings call right here on the 9th. Tomorrow we'll see an E here, and you'll see them dip down here and really try to shake the tree. Yeah, Anon's wife. My wife's boyfriend says hi. YouTube is good. Here for... your mic is better than the mic they used on the earnings call. Yeah, better. Did I notice the market maker dropped the share price 25% 5 minutes before the earnings was released? Yeah, and it's possible they got it before anyone else, but they typically do that just to scare the crap out of retail. Been on Reg's show for months. Oh, are we getting trolls? Is that what's going on here? Yeah, that's fine. Shake off the haters. Yeah, it's fine. Smash that like. I guess I'm really far behind because obviously this is behind. All right, squeeze. So it's more. All right, so these are all, I guess. I'm just reading through. Most of these are bots. All right, so let's see. I'd love to. All right, so someone wants me to address the after hours explanation. I just did. So yeah, right here. It only took about 120K. Yeah, 120K to cause this in the after hours. So 120K shares got bid whacked all the way down. That means they sell off the shares as fast as they can. They don't worry about what price they're getting for them. Could be retail, could be, a short, it could be many other things. And then it went back up to about half of what it did, and we finished, it looks like, about there. So it hit a low of 292. But yeah, that's how that works. If you don't understand that, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, it only took 120K to drop it that much. All right. So let's see. We own the float. Tomorrow is double down day. Yeah, I mean, so most of these people are basically like complain. I don't know. I'm reading through all this like stuff, and it sounds like, somebody's in here shilling, and then people are saying that they're not selling. Cool story. Yeah. So earnings per share met, drop came 5 minutes before earnings release. Going long, buying more. Yeah. Let's see. I'm reading through. Let's see. People are just saying they're buying more. Let's see. Where's the porn bots? Apparently he was spamming the... Oh, this is probably the same guy that was the one in there, right? So the person that was knocking on the Patreon thing, he's bringing it up as well. So wow. He got to go on for a long time. Is he still on? I'm obviously very far behind on the comments, but let's take a look. Is it cleaned up? No, the porn bots are back at least. Okay, should be caught up now. So, let me go ahead and get back into this. Just skip over the size. Porn bots were there. Okay, Cody. He was talking for a long time. Sorry about that. What are the chances of us ripping through options on May 20th? Okay, so let's take a look real quick. So let's pull up. Let's pull up the options chain. So obviously right now, a lot of this stuff got knocked out of the money. So we're going to find out really quickly what's going to be a probable thing. So let's take a look at the current things, which is basically that we finished slightly over, what was it? What did we finish at? We finished at 341. Yeah, 341. So that means right now only the $3 are going to be in the money for Friday. So let's take a look at that. And you're going to see. And this is, we talked about basically the ones that were, further down were going to be the ones that were the safest. I said that going into earnings. I said it on Friday when I was talking to people. I said, people keep buying these $4 and $5 calls, and I kept saying the safest ones are going to be the ones that are the deepest in the money. And some people listened and some people didn't, and we're going to find out, because tomorrow is going to be a very, very interesting day, because we're going to see how far they can push it to shake the tree. And at what point does longs, and now remember, there are still longs who are not just retail, but there could be ones that are like, okay, maybe that wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be. They're still holding cash. This could be an opportunity for somebody to get back in at a pretty low price, pretty close to book value. So let's go ahead and take a snapshot of this. And we can kind of go from there. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to just put up my normal thing where I cut out the stuff. All right, here we go. I'll just drag it across so you guys can see it. Okay. So we're going to make up a new thing. We're going to basically draw this out so you guys, hopefully you guys can see this. So right now, this is going to be still in the money. And now, this over here, all this is going to be in the money. And then red, this will be out of the money. And then all this is going to be burned. Okay. So this is where the new battleground is. And what we're going to see here is I'm going to change on. It's still red. And let's draw a line. So this is going to be the new battleground, basically, at my guess is around here. To possibly here, depending on, how much, oops. This is the new battleground. They can try and push this down, but as this stuff gets really hammered down, these things become a lot cheaper. And because, remember, there's more power for retail, the lower the stock price goes. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next, because as people get really, really bearish on the stock, and we're still on reg show, they might decide to start covering some of these shares that they really pushed down with. And so we may see it hovering kind of like in this range as people try, they shake the tree, people get out, more, they might actually cover, which means that they won't move too much. I don't think they're going to be able to push it much further than this point right here, which is where we went before. Like this was the 210 level. That was less than current asset values. So, for example, if I was going to do that again, we would probably be seeing. So right now, this is this week's, and then the following week, though, is where most of the interest is. And I'll pull up that one, too. Let me just pull up. Because there are actually a good amount of 250s and $3 calls that have been bought for that range. And we're still above $3 right now. So let me pull up a snapshot of the options chains for next week as well. All right. Here we go. '20th. Now, all right. So here we are here. So there are still a decent amount of 250s that are still open. You're going to see probably tomorrow, as the stock gets pushed down, this stuff is going to start filling up. Just depending. Because I think this right now, there's a lot of, the one thing I can tell you is there is some institutionals, longs, that are right now looking at this and going, okay, they missed on earnings. The stock's going to get really, really cheap. Once stocks get really, really cheap and the options get really, really cheap, they may have an opportunity, though, to squeeze out a short if they, you have to figure this. That's a nice gamma ramp. We'll see if it all just disappears, or if somebody says, that's a pretty nice gamma ramp sitting there. It wouldn't take much for them to just push on it and get some, price movement, because that's a lot of open interest on this side. And there's not a ton of open interest on the put side. Now, we'll see what ends up happening with the option exchange tomorrow, because obviously some people are going to roll it. Some people are going to, just sell for loss. Other people, though, might actually hold in and actually try to push this. So, there's a good amount of, look at this. Use a different color, but basically from here all the way down, look at that. That's a lot of open interest right now. So somebody may take advantage of that. Now, what are the chances? I don't know. Let's see. It all depends on retail, because right now they're still on reg show. They still have FTDs that are built up. And, to me, if you see massive hits on the money flow and the OBV, then yeah, maybe at that point it will take longer. But we'll see right now. You can see this right here, there was volume flowing out of it, but the money flow hasn't really changed that much yet. We're still basically pinned to the top. And so as you kind of zoom out and zoom in on these things, you'll see is the overall right now, this was money and volume coming in. The volume's dying off now, which is why this is dragging. But the money hasn't actually flown out of the stock. You should see, look at this. The oscillator just moved, on the TTM. But at the same time, you're not seeing a ton of actual selling. The volume should be massive, and you should see this just dropping like a rock, and it's not happening. And so that's what's interesting about this stock. And I've showed this to you guys before. I'll just zoom in right here. You saw the money flowing into the stock. The money actually flowed even more, and now it's been pinned to the very top. The OBV's gone with it and has gone even higher right now. But the price of the stock is actually gone down recently, but you're not seeing the money flowing out. What you should see on a normal stock, if we pull up Ford, see how the money flows in and up to the peak, and then it flows out and it drops? That's how it should be. That's how most stocks operate. Look at Amazon. Amazon just got murdered recently. See how the money flow right now is going down? You see this oscillating with the price action, but you see the money flowing in here, getting even higher to this peak here. That's where we are sitting right now. We are near a damn top, which is another one here, right? These are tops. But guess what? It's going back down. The money flowed in, and now the money's starting to flow out. Look at GameStop. Money flowed in, though. Look familiar? Money flowed in, never flowed out. It's still sitting there. Look at AMC. Same thing. Money flowed in, right? Did money flow out? Nope. BBIG. All these are retail favorites. Money flowed in, money stayed in. Let's do a regular stock again. Let's do Google. See money flowing in, right? Money starting to flow out. But it started down here, and it's been flowing in. And then once it hit these tops, it's been starting to flow out. That's how things are supposed to look like, money goes in, money goes out. Look at ATER again. money flows in back here on the first squeeze, really on the second like hump of this first squeeze, and then it never flowed out. In fact, it just went more. And that, to me, that's indicating that retail didn't sell. And because of that, it's caused a problem. That's how you went from basically this right here on March 8th, we hit 100% utilization. It's because when the stock actually got down here to the lower parts of this, when it was really cheap at $2, retail locked up the entire float. This then, on top of that, means that they sold maybe another set of the float possibly. I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at like, you already were up here, then you went even higher. Like, and the money's not flowing out of the stock. Like, so. All right, so what implications do you see for the FTD pileups in the next 2 weeks? Yeah, so they've got to figure out what to do with this. If they can't shake retail out, which is that's the end goal for them. They need to get retail out of the stock. They need retail to sell really badly. Like, here's the run-up from the last time. They've been able to push just bleed out the stock. They hit this recent low of 210, and then now we're dipping into this loading zone. And this loading zone is where this gets really dangerous because you don't really want to short when it's under $5, to be honest with you. Like, at $5, that's fine. But once you get down into these, like, 3s and 2s, and you start really trying to just push down on it, we're already at... I just found out my Marine friend, his Ortex expired, so I can't use that. But I'll get Ortex tomorrow, and I'll take a look at the numbers again live. But what is the short exempt volume? Like the definition of it. So a short exempt is basically a status that's given to market makers, for Devon, that they are allowed to short without locating shares. They're allowed to basically naked short, and it's for liquidity purposes only. But they tend to abuse it when they feel like it. So, okay. Just logged in, bought $10 calls for May 20th. Do you think that's going to happen? Yeah, I mean, so it's obviously much harder when we're sitting down here at 340s, and we'll probably push and hit the 292. 292 was a good support level. They broke through it. It took them a while to break through it, but once they get down here, I don't know if we can go back to that day. Let me see if I can do that. If I go to the 1 hour and just show you the last time before we ran up. Right around, I guess it was here-ish. They were trying to, like, maybe I have to go even further down. Let me try the 5 minute. It's going to take me a second to get over there. Sorry. I just want to show you, though, the last time we were down there. When they tried to actually break down through, it took them a really long time to do it. If I can find it. Was it around here? Yeah, so like they literally tried, I think it was something like 26 attempts to try to get through the 293 area. Now that will change now slightly because obviously we have different numbers for book value and all these things, but like they're going to be an area of support in the 2s that's going to be pretty strong. And at 2s, retail can afford a lot of shares, which is the interesting part of all this. But it took them a while to get through that area. So we'll see if that still holds up for a support level in the 293 area, like somewhere around that. Like 293 to 280, something was like a good support before. We'll see if that holds up. They're going to push on it, and they'll probably break through at some points. We'll see if retail lets it just hang out there, though. As far as the I think it's IKAA or like IK maybe. Um, yeah, I mean, once again, you bought $10 calls that are pretty like those are pretty far of the money even when we were at $4. That's not obviously what I would have done as far as none of this is financial advice. I just always like deeper in the money ones. I think they're safer. If you're going to play options, if you have no theta, then you better be deep in the money, and that's kind of my rule of thumb. If you were going to be buying stuff that expires this week or next week or the week after, you want to be deep in the money if you're going to be playing with those, personally for me. Or if you have some theta, then you can buy stuff that's a little bit farther out of the money. Like I had bought some like August, like $5 calls back when we were like $4.90. So, but yeah, it's, I mean, that's going to be rough. And so hopefully, hopefully those come true for you. But I was going to say, you may want to look at IV spikes and trying to, do something with those. Let's see. Do you think showing your position would be beneficial in the subreddits and give them confidence to buy more Aterian? So I was actually told by a lawyer not to do that because apparently that was part of the issue, I guess, with DFE. He was showing his position daily, and people were using it as kind of like a rally cry. And this guy that I'm friends with, that's a lawyer, he was like, "Listen, I don't think you should be doing any of that stuff because then it's showing you're kind of then giving yourself a status." I'm just going off what he said, but let's see. What about a stock buyback with the cash they have? Yeah, hustle. That is a possibility. And actually, I have recommended that to Aterian before. I said basically if they push down back into the twos again, if that was going to happen, that would be very, very interesting to see what ends up happening because they're already on reg show right now. And if they reduce the float further by doing a share buyback, whew. All right. If their smear campaign is waiting to see somebody else's position, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know why everyone's, yeah. Money doesn't equate leadership. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it sounds like Amazon was helping us with shipping. They are. They actually have a deal with Amazon Logistics. So let's see. Mason Wolf, I want to tell you, please ignore these a-holes that bad-mouthing you. I appreciate what you're doing. It's not easy being the center of a topic like this. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. 2 weeks ago I was a genius and everyone loved me, and right now I'm an idiot and everyone hates me. I can't help that. I'm not sure I mean, where are the pitchforks for, all the other people who wrote DD? It's fine. I got thick skin. I'll be okay. Is the 4 to 440 loading zone now resistance? No, the loading zone starts at 208 roughly, and is this area right here. When we're going back up again, you're gonna notice there's gonna be similar resistance levels. Things that were supports will become resistance at first until they go through. Apparently, I'm also an egomaniac, is what I was told. Yeah. It's funny because I really don't feel like I have an ego. Anyone that's actually talked to me, and I tend to talk to anyone that writes me. I try to answer as many questions as I can. So, not quite sure where that egomaniac is coming from, but okay. All right. The guy was projecting. At some point, they can contradict themselves, saying the reg show does not exist, but then claimed ATER was on the reg show for months. He was mad because he paid for... Yeah, apparently he was mad because he paid for a Patreon account of mine and expected me to hand him like percent winners or something like that, and then he found out I'm not pumping stocks. Yeah, I don't pump stocks. I've been in this stock for over 9 months, and the majority of it has been bleeding. So, yeah, I'm definitely not pumping stocks. I've been in this stock for a long time, and I haven't sold. So, there it is. Yep, just another day at Aterian. Bleeding, waiting. Yep. Let's see. Hey, have you... I know you have some 520 calls. Are you still going to hold them, wait and roll? I'm sure they're going to attack this tomorrow. I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty sure Let me just do this. I didn't even look, to be honest with you. In after hours, I was listening to the call, and so, yeah, like, let me see how bad it is. All right. Yep. So I'm down 77.52% on my May calls. In fact, that's one of them. And then another call, I'm down 91.79%. So there's not a whole lot to roll there. I'll see, at this point right now, I may just have to take that as a loss, and we'll see. Obviously, tomorrow is going to be an interesting day. So, I'll play it by ear tomorrow, but at this point right now, I've lost the majority of the value of those May 20th calls. So I'm sure when we open up tomorrow, I'll probably be down to the point where I'll just hold them into expiry because they'll probably be worth nothing. So we're going to find out. Jason says the executive order needs to happen now, so these stocks can be freed. Yeah, I mean, we'll see if that goes through. Somebody said that they were margin called after January 28th on Robinhood. Yeah, I mean, if you buy things on margin, that's the danger of any of these stocks. If they fall through, you're going to get margin called, and that means you're going to have to liquidate shares, which means that tomorrow, you'll see there'll be at least a good amount of selling off in the morning because people are getting margin called. And, they bought these shares on margin hoping it would go up. And that's always been the risk. And anyone that was in the Discord today, I actually at everyone that said right before the earnings, I said the market was still open. And I said, if you want to, you can always buy puts if you're nervous about going into these calls, the earnings calls, you can hedge, and then if you make money on that, you can always go long if you want, or just keep the money. But I did that, at everyone that statement before earnings. I don't know if anyone took that advice, but I was reading all his posts on Reddit on Anon. He's spreading FUD about Anon across different subs. Yeah, I mean, it is whatever. Let's see. After processing the earnings report, I was comfortable with the information long-term value play. It sounded like they were being safe and had strong ones. Yeah, I mean, that's how they've been on every earnings. They're not pumping up anything. They're not they're listen, we're facing really, really difficult times. We're not going to go ahead and blow smoke up anybody's, so. And when am I getting a pet alligator? I will not be getting a pet alligator anytime soon. All right. Did you know that there's... Okay, hold on. How much lower can this realistically go this week? I mean, it all depends on... they can move... So if we have low volume tomorrow, that's when they can lower the price. And I think you've seen... And you can actually talk to anyone that's been in our Discord. They've been watching them actively spoof throughout the day and over these last couple weeks. They're putting a large order in of 42,000 shares all at once right before the ask, and then they pull it. They get one or two orders to fill, and then they pull the order, but it sends the stock cascading down. So, if retail buys these, then it's all going to depend right now. It looks like, at least, on some of the longs and some of the retail longs. If retail is willing to put money into this and buy, these, the inevitable dip that's going to come with this, then they'll be fine. And if you're fine holding on to Aterian, yeah, it may take longer than like a couple weeks, but like, you have the ability to own the stock that right now is on Reg Show, and at some point they're going to have to deal with that. You're supposed to close after 13 days. Obviously it's now 20 days in, and they haven't closed any of their positions. So, what's the SEC waiting for? I don't know. They did 29 straight days the last time we ran up. So, there's a lot of things that can happen. Does this extend the time that we have to wait for the squeeze? Yeah, it could. It definitely could. I mean, it all depends on retail. Like, the squeeze could happen, honestly, next week. The only thing we don't know, though, is how retail is going to hold up. If retail holds up and says, you know what, I like this stock long, and buys it, and yeah, they could move up violently. Like, it all depends on, it sounded like one of the whales said he bought some of the stuff in, I guess, the dip today. So he said he bought it at like 330 or something like that. So I guess he might have been the guy that bought it down here. He said he bought a couple 100,000, or no, I think he said like a couple sets of like 10,000 shares. So he might have been this guy that bought some of this, and in this range too, because he said he bought in the 20s and 30s, I think, when he wrote me a message. So we'll see. I mean, like, they're going to have to go through and deal with some of these FTDs at some point. So, what happened with earnings? Living in New Zealand, cannot find the information anywhere. Stock apes. So essentially what happened was Aterian missed on earnings, and obviously somebody dumped out really, really aggressively in after hours, which scared everybody. But, it doesn't change a bunch of things. I started going over the balance sheet, so which hopefully you got to see. How does this stack up with a short squeeze? Is it still a short squeeze? Yeah, I mean, technically right now they're still Reg Show, they're still FTDs mounting, and the only thing that's changed at this point is the price. Obviously, we are lower now on the options chains than we were, which means there are more things that are now out of the money. So, but there's a good amount of them, and so it all depends now on if retail wants to buy down at these prices and buy options down at these prices as the stock lowers. They should get what's it called, less expensive on the options chains. As the stock price is tanking, your options on calls should get lower too. I love you, Anon. No one's going to shake our guilt. Are we going to see $2 again? I mean, I definitely think we could dip into. We already hit technically $2 right here. We had $2.92 right there. It bounced off that, but I mean, like, yeah, we've already seen $2. So, if shorts took profit, doesn't that mean that the shorted shares should go down as well as the short interest? Hold on. If the shorts took profit, for them to take profit, they have to close their positions. So what we would see then is we would see, where's the Fintel data? Are we saying? Sorry, it's being slow. Okay, here we go. Shorts. Yeah, we're going to get exchange reported data tomorrow, I think. That should be about right. I think The last one we had was there was 10 million or 10.5 million basically short interest. So we're going to see what they come out with tomorrow. So that's a good amount of shares that they need to at some point. But for them, they would have to actually close positions to take profit. So shorted shares would go down, yes, because they would be closing those positions, as well as short interest should be going down too. I've heard that short exempts are essentially the same thing as naked shorting. Yeah, but they're market makers, so they get to just do it whenever they feel like it. I'm getting close to 500 shares. Hey, congrats. There you go. All right. If Ortex data is still good, the Thursday squeeze is still on, T+2. Yeah, I mean, it all depends on what... Like, if retail starts bailing, though, on their positions, which, once again, if you will follow the price, you're not going to actually see what retail is doing. You need to follow indicators that better represent what retail is actually doing. So... Do you see us going below 2, DeMarcus? So that would be a stretch. Let's just take a look. Like if book value is still in the 3s, for us to go through, I need to basically do a calculation on how much that would put us at for a market cap. Because if I'm pulling up this current 10K, opening it, and I go down here to assets. All right. So current assets are cash, accounts receivable, inventory, and prepaid. So let's just add those up real quick. So just so you guys can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this calculator here, and I'm going to add up 44,281.00 plus 8,000 plus. Hopefully you guys can see where I'm getting these numbers from. I'm getting them from right over here. Right. Yeah, so that equals up to this one right here, which is what we were just talking about. So that's our current, right? And then if we divide that by, we'll go down here to the listed stocks, which is this number right here. So if we go back to that, and we paste it. So, for us at current asset values, that would be 222 on the share price. So, for us to go down to, for example, ones, you're basically saying that this is past liquidation prices. Now, if you discounted perhaps the inventory sum, you might be able to see like the 190s maybe, but like that would be a stretch. And that would also be assuming at this point that pretty much, no one thinks that the stock is worth, if it drops down to the ones, I expect there to be a lot more FTD starting to pile up again at that point. Because I think at some point people realize kind of what's going on with Aterian, and they know that there has been some weird stuff that's been going on with the stock. So if the stock gets all the way down there again, it literally would just take a couple people to you could lock up the entire float very, very cheaply down there if you think about it. Like, let's just do a thought experiment, right? We'll pull the calculator over, right? So if you do that, let's say the stock is at 193, right? And we have 26,270 shares, right? So all it would take to lock up every single share on the free float would be $50 million. 50.7. That's it. You would lock up the entire free float, assuming that nobody owned any of these shares at that price for that. Like, yeah, that's getting into like the really, really like, like, could that actually happen? Because anyone that has a good chunk of money could lock up a good chunk of that right away at those prices. So, is it impossible? No, nothing's impossible. But at the same time, hold on. I'm going to add a couple more mods. I think our laundry is... We were washing sheets, and I think the dryer got, like, unbalanced. Sorry, I'm just trying to find DeMarcus Cousins. Where's DeMarcus Cousins? DeMarcus Cousins, if you hear me, please write something on the chat so I can... Is DeMarcus Cousins still in here? YouTube. All right, sorry. Let's go to the next question. Let's go over here. What happened? All right. This drop does not help us with volume, considering big buys are most likely at lower price with retail averaging down. Yeah, that's probably going to happen. At some point, the only thing that changed really was the price, and there are now more things that are now out of the money. But, yeah. All right. Yeah, Becca's a mod too. I made her a mod. Let's see. Lexinator said he was out of ammo for the day. Yeah. Becca the porn bot destroyer. It's pretty good, Becca. All right. Someone say something stupid. Do you see Aterian not squeezing for about another month? I mean, yeah. I mean, this is all dependent right now on how retail reacts. If they, freak out and they sell, then yeah, it's going to be harder for things to actually, because then what's going to end up happening is FTDs will start to get reset. At the same time, though, if retail continues to buy as the stock drops, they're still going to have to deal with these FTDs, because at some point, those brokers are going to have to come up with these shares that these people are buying. So, listen, if you're long Aterian and you've stuck with it, through this, right? So this looks, as aggressively as this went up right here, this is right back where we basically started. Like once we get down here, that's where we started. And this is a really, really dangerous range for them to keep shorting. I would not short a stock that has this much retail interest at $2 a share, because they can buy a lot of stuff when it's in the ones. Like if you look on the RSI, Like, look where we are on the RSI. Can you see that? Like, we're in oversold right now. At some point, this snaps back. We're in the loading zone. You know, if you were to drive it down, so this is going to be tomorrow, right? So they're going to try to drive it down here. We're going to go in the twos, my guess is. And at that point, though, how far can they push it before it snaps? Because this crossover will happen. Stochastic already has it crossing over. So what you're going to see most likely is they're going to try to drive it as far down as they can, and then they'll probably start covering a little bit if they can get retail to sell. But you can see right here on the stochastic daily, it's starting to cross over a little bit. And right here, you'll see that kind of start sharply move up. That means it probably wouldn't start moving until like Thursday, is my guess. Because this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would be when it's actually starting to cross over. Just assuming like this starts flattening out here, then this day it's starting to move up slightly. Could it happen Wednesday, Thursday into Friday that you cross over back somewhat bullish and then come back to like 3 or 350? Sure, like that's very possible. But I mean, the more they push us down, you're going to get into like really oversold areas. And so, I mean, like even that's on the hourly, sorry. On the daily, we still have a little bit more to drop. Looks like we are now about 42 on the daily. So we've got another 12 that we can drop on the daily, which would push us right around here. So we haven't crossed over on the daily yet, on the stochastic. So, yeah. So, like, this would be my guess. We could come down here, hang out in the, like, this range around here before we start to cross over. And it might take, maybe 2 to 3 days before we even start to see that starting to move back and flatten out. So, there were $5 to $7 bullish sweeps at 350. Yeah, and so there may be a line in the sand where some smart money has placed it and said, yeah, it's not going to go much below that. Like, we'll buy more shares down there, but, like, we're not going to let you, like, burn us out on these calls because they're cheap and we can add to them. So if they are able to push it down to 250, then we don't get much of a squeeze. No, I mean, like, really the thing that matters is next week. Right now, the squeeze is not happening right now. I can tell you that just based off like the options chains, because too many things are out of the money at this point. So unless somebody steps in tomorrow with a huge amount of money that's deep in the money options that wants to go long on this, they'll probably save their ammo for the following week. Do I buy more Aterian? He's still in the green, or buy AMC the average? Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. Obviously, for me, like I only have a small portion in AMC. I still like. There's certain things I like for GME because of their stock split that's going to come up, which I think is an interesting thing. On the income statement, impairment loss on goodwill was more than operating expenses. Well, loss on goodwill is something that affects the business operations. I'm going to have to dive into it later tonight. The Tangy Nat. I'm going to go through with like a fine-tooth comb tomorrow at work. If I don't have to, I should be in the office tomorrow, so I should be able to actually go through and actually like really kind of dive into it. Someone said they sold their AMC for Aterian. Aterian will squeeze before AMC does. Market Ninja says, I may start loading 520 calls at 150 strikes. Yeah, that could be a thing. It should get cheaper, so buy now. She's going to get pushed up next week, whoever loaded the option chain so hard. How did they raise their new cash? They did a private placement. Or they also could have came from inventory, selling inventory. That's probably more likely because I think they already had like 41 million cash as of like December. So I think it must have came from inventory, selling inventory. All right. Let's see. Indicators don't move. Stock supply demand does. How long can she go? I mean, it all depends on your timeline. Like if you need this money now, then yeah, this is obviously not what you wanted to happen today. But like if you're willing to like go long, like we were basically all back here, like we watched this thing bleed off for months, right? The stock just bled and bled and bled, and when it felt like it couldn't go anymore, it bled and bled and bled. But then we had this rapid move up, and then we were coming back down into this loading zone. We're not that far away from where we just were. So we're closer to this bottom here, and maybe we could go slightly lower, but like for the most part, this stock's at the bottom, and it really needs to move up. And based off like how many shares they've traded and sold on the stock, my guess is it has to go up at some point because you can't let it hang down here forever if retail is hanging around. Like if retail just decided, okay, we're going to start loading up in the twos hard, it wouldn't take much money or like much retail to actually like lock up the entire float again. And this may be the second or third time, but hypothetically, that it could happen. So, how many shares are available to short? I don't have Ortex up right now. I've got to go buy another Ortex because my friend's account just expired. But that's fine. I'll go ahead and sign it up for tomorrow. What's up, Vlad? All right. I have really dope short info from an app in the Bloomberg, but it won't let me post. It keeps getting marked as spam. That I don't know. I don't have a Bloomberg, so I don't know. But if you can figure it out, let me know. If you need Ortex, you can use my account. I've got it till October. It's fine. I'll buy my own. But let's see. I was using my friend's account because I didn't have it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not using it." So, does shorts really have to pay FTDs soon, or can they drag it? I mean, so it's really up to the SEC. Like the SEC technically can enforce at any point that makes sure that after 13 days they should make these shorts close, or technically the clearinghouses should. At this point right now, they still don't have like an escape hatch until September, which means that I don't know how many retailers are hanging out. Like if retailers are hanging out and just buying, then very much so that these trying to find in the chat. Sorry, I'm trying to address. Somebody wants me to add them as a mod. YouTube. All right, sorry. Because obviously we need more moderators now. All right. So, going back. But yeah, I was going to say they eventually do have to deal with them because if you looked at like GameStop and AMC before they ran, they were on the reg show for a while and then they eventually had to like close out some things. So, there's 3.5 million shares due for T plus 35 for Thursday and Friday. I mean, I'll have to go and double check that, Christian. I didn't see that, but I was going to say they would be due before Thursday or Friday. That's the way you should look at it because they can technically close them anytime they want. On those, they don't have to close them on Thursday and Friday. They could do it on Wednesday or Tuesday as long as they close them before those T plus 35 dates. Yeah. And options are obviously there's an inherent risk with them. You're right, Alfie, or Alf Gatsby. When Moon, do the cat gif. What do you make of the last question on the call about naked shorting? I mean, it's obviously something that they have to deal with. They know it. We know it. And I think they actually brought up what I saw today, and I posted in my DD, I think is a better point, which is they naked short, hypothetically. But at the same time, what they really do more often is they spoof. And spoofing on low volume causes a huge amount of like sell pressure that doesn't really exist. And so when they're out of shares like they are on Aterian, they spoof to drive down the price and shake out retail. Think about this. Like, imagine you have a bunch of people hanging from branches of a tree, and you are able, as a market maker slash, like short, to go in and essentially shake that tree super hard, but never actually exert that much force. It's like almost like you're able to just like grab onto the branch itself and shake that instead of actually shaking the base of the tree, which should be harder. That's essentially what spoofing is. Like, spoofing allows them to basically shake that tree really, really hard without actually shaking the tree really, really hard. And it works because retail falls for it all the time. All right. Do you think they covered the FTDs from the last run? It all depends. Like, I mean, obviously there were people that sold in this area, right? There was a good amount of like volume coming out in these days, and even this day. But you haven't really seen, like, these are all sell volumes, but they're much lower. So like you would have to basically look at this like there was a lot of buying here, and there was buying even this day, and there was buying here and buying in these days, right? That's a good amount of volume that was going back and forth. And so you have to equate, did all of retail get shaken out here? I would argue probably no. And that's what the indicators show me, that they didn't. So no, I don't. I think there's still going to be FTDs, and they may not be as big because some people got out in this area, but then they're going to start building up down the line, especially as this price is getting lower. People are being able to afford more shares. So are they in need of cash because they're weathering the storm? They wouldn't a share buyback be hurtful? So they can. They just it would be basically a strategic move, I would guess, if the stock price fell enough where it made sense to buy back some shares and add some value back for their shareholders. That's something they could do. But yeah, I mean, I don't think they would do it at this current price. It wouldn't make sense because they issued some of these things at like $2.90 something and some at $3 for like the warrants, I think. So the question is, like, why would you just, if you raise the money that way, it would have to be much lower. So the stock would have to drop below $2, my guess would be, before they would consider a share buyback, if they would consider one. But that would be very interesting if they did that because, they're already on Reg Show. So you have a lot more knowledge on reading stocks and understanding how manipulation works. A waterfall that occurred with BBIG is just shorts, or is it trying to get rid of? So I'm not really talking about BBIG today. If you want, I'll just take a look real quick at the chart, just because I didn't see what they did today. But we're on the daily, right? All right, so let's go to the 1 minute real quick. Yeah, so they did the typical thing. They let it run up to capture premiums because they want to get people buying this morning, thinking it's MOAS. Excuse me. And then they just bleed off the rest of the day. So it was down 11%. Finished even, looks like, for after hours. So, I mean, that doesn't look that abnormal. That was just basically like bid whacking and a waterfall, it looks like. But they basically pumped up the stock just to knock it down so they could capture premiums. Alexander. Good to see ads coming in. Woohoo. Are we getting bots and ads again? So are you saying there's still a chance? Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's all going to depend on retail and how they hold up tomorrow. And what I would tell you is this: if you're just watching the stock right now, you're not going to get how retail's actually trading. I would recommend looking at indicators that better represent, like money flow and some other indicators. Just watching price is not going to show you if retail's buying, selling, doing whatever. On low volume, you're going to see it bleed, and they're going to try to push it down tomorrow. That's going to be their goals. So, but just remember, look at this. As bad as it will look, as bad as it looks, right here we're at 41 RSI on the daily, right? Let's see where we are on the weekly. Right? And on the weekly, we're like 45. And on the monthly, we're like, what's that? 32. So, on these ones right here, we've got a little bit more that can bleed, but at some point, it starts getting oversold completely. Because already on the 1 minute, we're oversold. Right? We should be like, yeah, pretty close to oversold on that. So most time frames right now, we're going to be moving down very close to the oversold coming up. Yep, we're already down there on this one, on the 30 minute. On the 1 hour, we're already oversold. And on the daily, we're coming down to be oversold soon. So what you'll see then is you'll get to a point where we go, okay, the stock has to basically cool off from being dumped on. So you will find a bottom at some point, just even if it's temporarily, there will be some relief because they can't let it go that far. And the farther it falls, the lower the price is. You're looking at like an opportunity to buy at really, really decent, like, you know, book value, like, levels. Yeah, so Andrew said, I've been following you since the spurt. You're not a Schiller pumper. Yeah, I follow some stocks. I trade them. For this one in particular, stuff didn't look right. Still doesn't look right. The fact that we traded 1.2 billion on a stock that's 100% utilization and it's a small cap that shouldn't be trading 1.2 billion shares. Yeah. All while locked up. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So, what happens to the buy orders that get routed through the open exchange and dark pool? Do they eventually get delivered or become FTDs? So here's an interesting thing. I'll kind of explain how this works. Transcendence. So everyone thinks that your broker is, as soon as you buy your shares, the broker goes out and gets them, right? So they don't actually do that. So what ends up happening is, say, for example, let's use this as an example. Say you bought in at $6.30, right? Right here, you were like, this stock's going to the moon, you bought it, and then boom, it gets knocked down. Come back up a little bit, we're gaining momentum, and it's just been bleeding these last couple of days, right? So now you're sitting down here, and the stock's at 341, and you say, you know what? I think this stock's going to zero. I'm going to sell right now. That's how retail thinks. So they get out. So your broker then, if you bought back here, your broker should have delivered those shares by 1, 2, 3. And they could have by then. That would have made sense because you bought them at 6 something and they were able to buy them at 4 something. So that's a good deal for them. They got you your shares and they closed the position, right? Everything's good. So you paid them 6, they only paid 4 for them. You're in your position. But there are times, for example, that like are here. Say they bought your shares at $3.99, and all of a sudden, 3 days later, 1, 2, 3, all of a sudden the stock is now $4.20, and they go, "Well, that's no good. We don't want that." So they go the next day and they said, "Okay, well, we're technically supposed to do this, but maybe we'll fail to deliver his 100 shares. No big deal." Well, then the next day comes and they're still like, "Oh, the stock's even higher." So what they do is they actually just eat these FTDs because it's only 100 shares. They're not too worried about it. And so what they do is they wait for the stock to come down to a level they want to buy it at, and then they finally close their position. That will close their FTD. They're basically waiting for the stock price at times, and they're willing to eat these fees. Not like on 100 shares, it doesn't matter. But if you had like 1,000,000 shares that you were trying to do all across the board, that would be an issue. So that's what sometimes happens and that's why sometimes these brokers are willing to eat FTDs, is because they start looking at when they, if you bought down here, then 1, 2, 3, they were supposed to deliver the shares this day, and it's higher than it was back when they bought it. They might actually be like, well, I don't want to buy it then. And so that's how sometimes you see these FTDs start piling up, because your broker never actually bought your shares. So they never went to the lit market, never bought the shares, and now they're just eating them for you because they want to wait till the stock price comes down. And really no one's forcing them to do that until, all of a sudden you're on Reg Show, and then you might actually have to close it out eventually. So but yeah, when they get routed through open exchange and dark pool, eventually they will have to come due. All right. I'm here for the education. I'm a grown man. I can decide where and what I invest my money. And it's a straight shooter. That's why I followed him. Thanks. Appreciate it, Just Investor. Are you still bullish over the next 2 to 4 weeks? I mean, it's like I said, it's going to really depend on what happens tomorrow. Obviously, they're going to push this down. What I can tell you is this. What I've learned about when we got down in this range, the lower the stock price gets, the more it snaps back, and it snaps back hard. There are now more people invested in Aterian than there were back in this area. There are thousands and thousands of more people now interested in Aterian than there were back here. And that still happened where as soon as there was a little bit of retail interest, it skyrocketed up. So what happens if retail just never goes away and keeps just buying these shares when they start getting down in this price range? I mean, since the aftermarket price right now is $3.40, are you saying that we should sell and rebuy at $3? No, I'm not telling anyone to do anything with their money. You guys can make your own decisions. So, yeah, if he's saying to buy and hold, selling is the opposite. That's what shorts need. Yeah, so for shorts to close their position, you need to sell your shares to them. That's how it works. You literally need to close your shares out, and then they can reset their failure to delivers and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I'm not telling anyone to do anything. You trade how you want. Yeah. Can you explain the importance of being on the Reg Show for as long as we have? Yeah, it's unusual. You know who doesn't end up on Reg Show? Apple, or any of the regular stocks. You know why? Number one, they're really expensive, and that would be a super expensive thing to do. But you have to fail to deliver a certain portion of the float. And so with the small cap that's super manipulated, sure, that can happen all the time. But it doesn't. It's just on certain ones that get really heavily shorted. That's when Reg Show, you'll notice anything that's been on Reg Show is basically now a meme stock. that's typically how they end up. Because if retail falls in love with the stock, and sticks with it, all of a sudden anytime you have some buying pressure, the thing, ends up on reg show. That's essentially what happened. Was as soon as we had some buying pressure, we ended up on reg show within literally 2 or 3 days. I think the 12th is when we went. So like a week later, we were on reg show as soon as we got any attention on Aterian, because it's a low float stock. It's got a bunch of retailers that have held on, and I think we probably locked up the float back in the earnings over here. I mean, it's now been 62 days since we hit 100% utilization. Stock's still higher than it was back then. We'll see what happens, but it's not usual, and so what ends up happening usually is there'll be some, chopping, and I could see, let's see, I mean, I'm planning on calling the SEC tomorrow and just asking what's the status is for this, because obviously we're now 20 days in on reg show. I'd like to know what's going on, so I'll probably call the SEC again and talk to them. But yeah, once you start getting down this range right here, like in this stuff right here, this is a danger zone, because you better be super confident this company's going out of business to push the price down into this current asset levels. I told you 220s is current asset levels. If they're only $1 off that. I mean, they were only 70 cents off it when they actually pushed it down today at one point in the after hours. So you're already close to the bottom, and you have a lot of retail still buying in the stock. So yeah. For the record, nothing Anon says is financial advice. He breaks down publicly available information for you so you can understand it better. You do with it what you will. Yep. That's it. Thanks, Becca. Speculation. I came in late. Can anyone answer in the chat? Was there chatter about a share buyback on the call, or are we just speculating? Yeah, that's speculation. At this point right now, unless this drop it below, I would say, $1, into the ones. If they dropped it below $2, essentially, that's where it would make sense for them maybe to consider doing a share buyback, just because, and maybe not a ton of shares, maybe it's 5 million shares or something. But the reason why that would be interesting is because they issued those shares at 290s and 3s. So at that point they could get some of their money back for value wise, if they did that. And obviously they don't also, I won't say what I was going to say, because I think a lawyer might not be happy with how I've worded that. So I won't say anything. See, Mike, being smart. All right. Are call options right now better than buying shares? I mean, at this point, it's really up to you. So, the options chain for the following week, right here. So this is the 20th, right? And so you don't have a ton of open interest down in this area right now, because everybody was stacking it up here. But what's going to end up happening is, as the stock price gets down into this range, all of a sudden this stuff now gets cheaper. So will you see a massive run on some of these lower things? I don't know. We'll see. But my guess is the people that don't want to give up on this are going to start filling up down here, and then you're going to have a very, very full option chain if they keep it going. Will some people sell out of here? Sure. But we're going to find out all that stuff tomorrow and then the next day at opening. So, if you want to be safe, I would say buying shares obviously safer than, it's not going to put immediate market pressure on unless you route through IEX, but, it's the safer thing because it doesn't have theta. You can always just buy and hold shares long term and set it and forget it if you want. So, do you think shorts will be forced by cover then by FTDs? Yeah, I mean, at some point they're going to have to deal with them. Like, you can let them hang out there for a while, but like at some point the SEC does come to you and say, okay, you need to figure out this stuff. Won't market makers want to help push Aterian up to $4 by Friday? Let's see. Where's Max Payne for Aterian? Because it was at $5 this week and the following week. So Max Payne now is 4. I guess it did change from last week. So it's probably from today. And then the following week it's $5. So this week right here, Max Payne is actually $5, it says. We'll see, though. We'll see how it adjusts tomorrow when all this stuff starts getting hashed out. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see. Start tweeting Anon's links to Elon. Elon could fart and it sounds like ATER and this thing would rip. Yeah, I mean, if anyone with money came in and just sat down on the option chains, they would start to squeeze. Like, they just don't do that kind of stuff to each other typically because, like, that's how you make an enemy. And then, like, one of your positions when you're short, they could sit on. It just, there's like a code of ethics between, like, some of these, like, you know, like, they'll still squeeze each other here and there. And if there's an opportunity to, like, really just rake somebody over the coals, they'll do it sometimes. But you got to watch your back once you do that. Let's see. Yeah, the money flow shows we're holding. Imagine selling GME at 11 after it dropped from 11, saying this plays over, and then watching it to watch 400. Yeah, my friend did that. Craig, my friend did the exact same thing. We bought it at 17 though. It ran into the 20s, and then it dropped down, and then yeah, I think it was around that. Yeah, then it dropped down to 11, and then it ran from that point. And I think there was a day that we actually started in, like, I don't know, it was like we hit like 120, but it dropped down to, like, I don't know, it was like, I think it might have been like 70 in the same day. So it dropped like 40 or 50 bucks a share. Like, I can't remember the exact day it was, but I just remember right before it ran. It was like 3 days before it really ran. It really just slammed around all over the place that day. So futures are very jumpy, went positive. Yeah, it's hard to tell right now. You know, based off today's call, we should depend on Aterian to help. Yeah, so I'll be able to actually contact them, I think, again. We'll see if they're able to talk to me because they were in the lockup period because of earnings, but now earnings is over. So I'd love to actually talk to them again and just see if I can, you know, understand, you know, because they had a bunch of things that they were, like, adding. Like, they had added a retail, like, T-shirts and, like, merchandise store. There was a couple things I wanted to talk to them about. So we'll see if they'll talk to me. Yeah, the OBV has changed a little bit because our volume's falling off. So one of the indicators that OBV follows is volume. It's like your price and your volume together. So, yeah, like if you pull up OBV, you'll see here it hit these two peaks. It fell during this time because volume actually was falling, especially on this one. So if you notice, like when we were here, the volume was pretty decent. The next day, the volume actually was higher, but we were falling. The price was falling, and so this one was the volume died and the price died, right? So then we have this one where it starts coming up though again, right, into these, and then it's been here. Now these last couple of days have been low volume. But if you notice, the OBV is actually slightly going down, but it's not like tanking. So what you're seeing is the volume's dying off and the price is going down. So the OBV is starting to come down slightly. This is a more zoomed in, but like if we take a step back, you can see right here, the money flow should be flowing out of it at roughly the same rate, and it's not. So what you're seeing, I think, is you had some selling pressure. You did have your volume dying down, and you're seeing the stock price go down. So that's what's happening right here. But if this was really over, what you would see is these two would swing down massively together, and that's not happening. So, so Ortex is saying that it's 10.69 million shares shorted, which is 41.7%, and it went up another 6.62%. Smash the like buttons. Are we getting killed on the likes? Apparently, I had 230 viewing and only 3 likes. That's fine. Okay. Oh no, I guess he just didn't refresh it. Okay. I'd be down to mod on the helping hand. All right. True jarhead, just like Anon Marines. All right, so let's see. Thanks for answering my questions tonight. Yeah, absolutely. At the current price level, how much capital do you think would kick off this rocket? I mean, like, let's just do some simple math and just kind of show you guys. So we showed you that it would only take about 50 million if the price was just kind of chopping around the 193 area. So let's say it falls into the 250 area, right? And it hangs out there for a while. These are all, I'm just literally throwing out random numbers. And then we times it by 26. So that's the free float. Oh, that's plus. That's why. Sorry. So we had 2.5 times. So it would only take 65 million to lock up at 250. And then our current area, right, which is 341. Yeah, it's like 90 million basically. So it's not a whole lot of capital required to lock up the entire like float, and that's considering that if there was nobody that owned the stock right now. So I mean, a couple million would be my guess. Like, if somebody brought like $20 to $30 million to the long side, you would probably make the FTDs and everything go through the roof. Because that means that even if people were selling, there would be enough FTDs just starting to mount again that this thing would be kicking off in waves. I appreciate your saying you're not a show pumper. Yeah, I don't pump stocks. I get on some. I'll review people. Like I'll review different stocks for different people's. For me, I'm on the same ones. Like I'll look at a stock and I'll hold it for years. Like if that makes me a pumper, I don't really. I mean, that means I pump Tesla. It means I'm in GameStop. Like I'm not going anywhere. I just buy these things. I think they're undervalued, and eventually I'm usually right. Usually, if I find something, I stick to it like glue, and down the line, I'm usually right because I saw something in that company that I thought was undervalued, and eventually it does go up. I bought Tesla at like 60. I bought Amazon before it was 1,000. I bought IIPR at IPO, which is basically a REIT that does marijuana growers and facilities. But it was a really good business model. I read the IPO stuff, and I bought a couple hundred shares, and it turned out to be a really good investment. I still a minute. And then I also bought Switch when they were IPO'd, and then averaged down on that one many times, and now I'm very profitable on that one. And so, have you considered creating videos that are more compressed down to 5 minutes? Yeah, I should. Good seeing you, Lemon. Thanks. It's been a ride. Yeah. Well, it's still going on. All right. What are you showing at the bottom of... Where are you showing the bottom of your buying zone chart? It's basically down to roughly the previous low. I think it's down to basically 210-ish, somewhere around there. Maybe the 190s. That was supposed to be the loading zone. It's a little bit extended, but I was going to say that's basically what I had figured out was anything in here is kind of the sweet spot to really, really load up. If you actually look back across, down here, every time it got down in this area, it sprung back up. And same thing with here. This one took a little bit longer than I thought to spring up but we also had a war, and basically the market's been terrible. So I think if this had been in the bull market, it would have gotten down here and instantly sprung back up. But it took a little bit longer once it entered the zone. And you can actually see they bounced off it the first time. They bled back in, then they really kind of pushed down on it. And the shorts increased their position during this time frame. So, but you look, it bounced off it the first time. It's came back in. It's a loading zone, and then post back up. And now we're going to be here again. Could we bounce off this again and move back up? Sure. Could we also break down and go back into this loading area? Sure. It could happen too. So. Yeah, so the lower the price goes, if you average down, the more you average down, the better a shot you have at being profitable when the stock moves back up. So there's a good chance that Aterian watchers have been waiting for earnings to get this dip. Could trigger furious recovery tomorrow and run for the next 60 days. Yeah, that could happen too. I told people, I told people multiple times that I did not expect earnings to go that well because based off of what they said the last earnings, if anyone actually had listened to it, they said that they were not super bullish on this upcoming quarter and that there were still going to be plenty of problems. And so when everyone was like, oh, I think they're going to beat, I'm like, I'm preparing for the worst. And at this point right now, it doesn't change the fact that we're still on reg show. It doesn't change the fact that they're FTDs. That's another aspect of this stock that is separate from their fundamentals. So, It doesn't change anything in my book as far as that goes. The only thing that's different is the share prices are much lower, and it's taken out some of the gamma squeeze potential at this point, because at this point we don't know what's going to happen with the options chains starting tomorrow. So. Yes, stance. I did go over the balance sheet real quick, and I was mainly I've got to write up something on it. It's gonna have to be more detailed than that, but I just wanted to kind of do it on the fly with you guys and just show you. What's max pain for this Friday? 4, and then 5 for the following week. Yeah, we can bounce off the 100 or the 50 moving average. That'd be fine. All right, so apparently we had another FUD person come in. So let's go through real quick. Where are we at now? Okay. So we're gonna add. Yeah, so I guess some people. I'm just catching up to the chat. So basically, what's happened is somebody came in here, said that he's got 100,000 shares and he's going to sell, and then he'll buy back it at 250, which is fine. He can do whatever he wants. Do I believe him? No, I don't. So he can do whatever he wants. I'm selling my shares tomorrow. Okay, you do that then. And honestly, like, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to come in. Actually, you're not the first person that's came in here, Dopa. You're like the 8th person that's came in here and been like, I'm going to get out of here, which, yeah, I'm just kidding. All right. There we go. We can help clean up some of the chat. Why do they hate retail so much? So I'll be honest with you. It's because we're a huge inconvenience for them, especially recently. So what's ended up happening is this. We're supposed to be dumb money, and we're not supposed to hold through. We're supposed to basically be like, when they pump something, we're supposed to FOMO in, and then we're supposed to be buying when they're selling. So, like, imagine, okay, let's look at the top of something, right? Okay. So imagine this. You've got a whole bunch of running up right here, right? And so retail's buying in, they're pumping the stock, right? If you look at Wyckoff, Wyckoff is basically showing you accumulation or distribution. So in this case, down here, when everything was looking doom and gloom and terrible, right? This was actually smart money pushing down the stock and then buying more long. What they do then is then they start pushing the stock up. Once they get to a part where they think they can sell, what they start doing is they start actually pumping up the stock as much as they can. And then once they get to these peaks, what they start doing is they start selling when retail's FOMOing in. And that's how dumb money's supposed to go. So as everyone's like, ooh, the stock's going to the moon, right? They're selling all this. And then eventually what happens on the other side is they pump it down. So then now this is where they get the most of they're selling off, and now they've done it. Usually there's even a secondary pump on it sometimes, and sometimes it comes halfway through. But that's Wyckoff. So they've distributed. They've sold all their shares, and now who's holding the bags up here? Retail, right? And that's how retail's supposed to operate. So what happens though is, they start dumping down and retail bails out. And then once it gets down to another level of when it's really low, they start doing the same thing. So they start pushing it down. This is now a spring level, right? For like, if you look at Wyckoff Springs. So they push it down, it hits this Wyckoff Springs, and then it bounces back hard. And so what you see then is upward pressure finally, because they were accumulating shares all during this period, hit that spring, and then they move up. So now you have this thing. This is where they started distributing distribution again. So they start pushing out. They have the secondary run up, and then they do the same thing. They push the money out. They've taken their profits, and then they do this again. Then came down to this period. This was all a period of accumulation down in this area. So they literally started accumulate probably in this entire area right here. So what happens? They push it up. They're trying to control it, though. But here's the thing. They're starting to lose control around here, which is when the FTDs come out, right? And so what they have to do is they have to push down the stock desperately to kind of, and this is when the what's it called? Sorry, brain fart. The short exempts start they were shorting. They short exempted 1.2 million shares at one point, which is you're not supposed to do that. That's abusing your market maker status. But they're trying to keep it from running, so they literally were able to use a whole bunch of short exempts to keep the stock down, and then a whole lot of shorting in this time frame, right? So at this point now. And on look up the Hedge Riddler on Reddit and invite him to Discord. He's got good DD. Sure, we can take a look. Let's see. Thank you so much. Happy go, Rucky, Randy. Appreciate it. All right, so let's just look up somebody named the Hedge Riddler. Yeah, I just read through real quick. If you guys want to just see it real fast, I can pull it over. So basically what he did was he's saying that we've been here before, which is true. Let's take a small back. August 9th, 2021. This is when remember I just showed you that, this was the loading zone? That hit the spring, and then it moves up, right? This is the last squeeze. So he was just showing you this. So basically, you take a huge hit down here on earnings. And actually, if you want to go back to the chart, it is right here. So earnings came out right here, right? And it gaps down and gets absolutely squashed. It hits a low of 304, which is right here, and that's a spring area. So what he's pointing out is the last time this happened, we actually gapped down. We like completely got demolished for a couple days, and then it sprung up, and then they had to cover all these FTDs. Yeah, so ATER struggling against short sellers, manipulation, announced earnings. Was it good, bad? Net revenue was up 14%. Gross margin was up 50%. Cash on hand was good. And they gapped down and killed it. Yeah, sounds about right. And that's kind of what happens on everyone. That's why I kept telling people, I'm like, listen, like, you're going to end up like really upset if you are buying it knowing that it doesn't matter what the earnings do, whether they're great, if they're terrible, it's going to get nailed down. And that's essentially what happened today. So he's saying that was a strong earnings and it got completely killed, right? So it got pushed down all the way basically to 312. So if you sold at 3, you would have missed the high at basically 18. Yeah. And that's exactly right, because there are FTDs that are stacking up right now, and at some point they have to like cover them, and they have to figure out what's going on. So yeah, could we see another scenario like this where they push down hard, hits a spring, and then bounces? Yeah, that's probably what will happen in all actuality. That's what I said. Like, you're looking at maybe this like loading zone right here, and then when you're buying in this loading zone, we'll hit a spring, and then we'll go up. So, is it completely over? No. Like, in the 20th is right here. That's the major OPEX. So, could we see a complete push down and then straight back up? Yeah, that's possible too. And that's all he was saying, basically, for anyone that's nervous, you know. But I will write him and just see if he wants. Maybe he's already part of the Discord. I don't know, but I can ask. Are you part of Discord? There, I wrote him for you. Simple C. When do I see the potential squeeze happening? Like it says, yeah. So essentially, like he just pointed out, the last time this happened, oops, I just messed up my loading zone. See what happens? All right, now we gotta find. Was it 408? All right. So, like you said, right? Day before earnings, day of earnings, gap down, they got smushed. Hit spring, goes up. Could come. What's going to happen on the 20th? 3 different options, if you could explain. I mean, like, so here's the thing, right? So if we get pushed down in this week right here, let me pull up another. So this is the expiry that's happening 4 days from now. So tomorrow will be, 3 days will be up there. This is where we're at right now, right? We finished at 340. So at this point right now, I'd be looking at this area because they could try and push down into this area right here. Like, they could try that. I don't know if they get it, but I think these would be safer going into, the 20th. So, but what's going to be interesting is if this stuff starts getting really like, because here's the thing, they're not going out of business. like they've got $44 million, dollars right now sitting in cash. So we know they're fine on cash. They're not going to dilute. So what we're looking at now is just them sitting there batting the hatches, and these options chains are stacked. Like, this is still pretty stacked right here. Like, these numbers tomorrow will be probably pretty high. And so the question is, do people start, rolling them? Do they hold them and just hope that this stuff gets, pushed down? Like, the cheaper they make the stock, the harder it's going to swing back at them. And they know that too. So for them, they've got to choose, okay, do we just go ahead and cover, and then maybe they're the ones loading up this options chain, knowing that they were going to be able to push it down, get everything cheaper, and then roll it back up. That's a possibility. Yeah, we have way more FTDs this time, so. But yeah, I would be looking in this range right-ish here. That's my own personal, So, let's see. Anything else? I have not heard back yet from the Hedge Riddler, but I was going to say that's kind of what I see for right now. I've obviously got a lot of work to do tonight. I will try to start going through tonight with the rest of the balance sheet. And I will try to work out, from what I understand, I've got like 1 million fires to put out on Reddit, but, and in the Discord, I'm sure. But I think if people really understand what's going on, they would understand that this stock is highly manipulated, and yeah, it was not a great earnings, but at the same time, this is starting to be really, really interesting. Because if this gets loaded up down here, and it's all loaded up through here, through the 20th, and the lower the stock price goes, the more it's going to be, like, violent as it rips up. And you saw it, like, back here. When it comes, it starts ripping, and like it hits all the way up to like 19 a share. So if you sold at 3, once this gap down, if you went here from 8 and it went all the way down to 5 and then got it to a low of 3, you'd miss out on everything up here. So I'm not getting shaken out. I'll buy more, and it is what it is. Not selling a single share. Yep, Master Pin has not sold a single share since November of 2021. I'm putting my faith in ATER. Yeah, here's what I would tell you. If you go long and you aren't expecting anything, and you're able to load up down at these levels, like look right here. If you bought it down here, eventually this thing swings, and it swings hard. If you do the same thing here, if people start loading up all down in this area, eventually when it swings, it's going to swing hard. Like, just a matter of time. Because it's a low float stock, and there are not enough shares, and we've had $1.2 billion volume for this stock that shouldn't be trading anywhere near that amount on this tiny small cap. This stock is a pain in the butt for them. Is there a chance Reg Show? Yeah, if Reg Show starts getting enforced and they actually say, okay, well, the TTC and other clearinghouses have to start enforcing this, yeah, it could go tomorrow. Who knows? Like, sorry, I'm getting tired. All right, so let me do this. I will go ahead and do a little bit of research tonight. Then I will go to sleep, get some Z's, and then tomorrow when I get to work, I will actually sit down and start crunching numbers, and I'll put out a DD on the deeper findings that I find in there. right. Somebody said, yeah, the overall market conditions are making things worse. Yeah, obviously. I mean, we moved up through here because we had volume, but as soon as the stock market started tanking, which was like around here, everything kind of went sideways, and that's kind of how it's been. Like the stock market's been absolutely against us. It's a huge headwind for this. I think the DD that you just got from the other guy could be critical. FTDs on Thursday and Fridays could be high. Yeah, I mean, all these things are possible catalysts. And, like, once again, if it goes lower, then I buy more. Like, that's just how it works. Like, I understand what's going on with this. All right. So, I haven't heard anything else from them, but yeah, I'll leave it with you with this. If you're new here, you are more than welcome to join us in the Discord. It's free. Here it is. Copy and paste. Boom. So there it is. Come join us. There's a lot of people in there talking about the stock, obviously. So, besides that, everyone have a great evening, and we'll kind of go from there. And I will go ahead and try to add some more mods on YouTube, so we don't have to deal with that, that stuff anymore. Or if any of the mods can go back and clean up some of the chats, that'd be great. But yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, this is gonna be, to me, I've held all the way down, I've held up, and then I've held down again, and I'll be fine with it. Like, in the long run, when you're long on something and you believe that, something's undervalued, if you keep adding to it, I think in a couple years' time, Aterian's going to be on its own, standing on its own 2 feet, and it's going to be in a good place. And so, because of that, I believe that to be true. I'm going to continue to buy the stock, and I think, a lot of people that have kind of been with this company for a while kind of understand that what it's going against, and at some point, these, they'll become less reliant, number one, on the shipping that's coming out of Asia, and number two, they will figure out other ways to, make profit through M&A or through a creation of their own or whatever. But they're starting to come together, and I think, retail has picked up interest again, and as long as retail, knows about the stock, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it's on people's radar, and you will see it move around. So, you guys have a great evening, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and I'll be putting out some DD. So, once again, Alex, I don't do financial advice, but I would tell you right now, my calls, I don't have any basically value left on them. So it depends on what your calls are worth still, because for mine, I'm looking at probably like 90% losses. So at that point, I'm probably just holding it through just because, there's not much to roll there. But it's, it would be up to you. If you're going to sell anything and roll it, you want to make sure it's on an IV spike. But if you never get it, you never get it. We'll see. If you do get an IV spike, then if you want to roll, that's when you would roll it. But besides that, for me, my stuff's not worth anything, so I'm not going to part with those shares for nothing. So I'd rather just, keep those calls and hope for the best, and maybe we'll get lucky. So, all right, you guys have a great evening, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. All right. Good night.